This Christmas, here's a thought that can fill you with toddler-like wonder. The one who made this planet also made you. The one who made vast herds of reindeer and blood-red poinsettia and life-giving oxygen also made you. But this mind-blowing being is far more interested in you than he is in the most majestic snow-capped mountains or the so-called paradise of an idyllic tropical beach, or even the story-soaked landscape of the Holy Land. No, you are the pinnacle of his creativity. He had you in mind all along. You. I'm talking about you. And to communicate with you and your kind, this ultimate person, the very source of everything, had already been speaking in surprising ways and in some unexpected places over thousands of years. But then, and only then, did he do something truly original, and almost no one saw it coming. That first Christmas was a tiny thing, like a small hole in a large sheet of paper. Hard to spot. Hard to understand the significance of it if you noticed it at all. I mean, from a distance it looked like nothing much had happened. Apart from the chosen few around the manger, no one even knew he was here for the first 30 years of his life. Not even his first devoted followers. That first Christmas was like a pin in a piece of paper. Tiny, insignificant. And yet, through that hole came a light, very bright. And if we gaze into that light, we can see a whole new world, a whole new realm that exists beyond the veil. We can gaze in wonder at what this dazzling spiritual reality must be like. This is the genius of tiny things, like the arrival of a helpless, newborn baby God. Just like the pinprick through the sheet of paper, the first Christmas was a new and permanent incursion into this physical world. This wonder-filled spiritual realm of light broke into our physical world of darkness and pain and hunger and the whole heartbreaking tragedy of human life. As we heard in our reading from John's Gospel today, the true light that shines on everyone was coming into the world. After just 30 or so of these fledgling Christmases, as yet still uncelebrated by the masses, this tiny pinprick was eventually becoming a widening hole. Through the public demonstration of miracles and signs and wonders, more and more light was being let through, and more people saw it. But they were still on this side of the veil, the impassable barrier between us and God. But that first Easter morning, the one we call Jesus, although stone cold dead in someone else's tomb, suddenly, unexpectedly, took his own life back up again, just as he said he could, and he ripped the veil completely apart, making a way for you and me to cross over from death to life, from darkness into light. You can exist right now on his side of the veil and live out the rest of your days in spirit and in truth. Let me put it another way, more simply. Through this tiny Christmas pinprick, God himself made himself available to be with you here. And yet, this small opening was ripped wide that first Easter morning, and God made a way for you to be with him where he is, both now and for all eternity. And you can live in the presence of the source of light himself. And where he is, in that bright otherworldly place, there is full-on, wall-to-wall and unending joy. As Jesus himself said, be of good cheer. He says it many times in the Bible. And what we call cheerful is our translation of the Greek word hilaros. Hilaros. You know, I genuinely believe being in the very presence of God is going to be quite literally hilarious. I mean, just imagine the overwhelming flood of relief and peace. Imagine the confirmation of every good thing he's ever promised us for those who take him at his word, those who put their trust in him. Imagine the joy of all this longing and all this suffering finally being over, forever. And you thought you were looking forward to a good Christmas after a bad year of COVID. No, this will be hilarious. And the best thing, we get to taste it now. Joy to the world, the Lord has come. Let's face it, this year has been a hard year, a brutal year in many ways. And there's not been a whole lot of joy in circulation. It's been a year of untimely deaths and collapsing businesses. It's been a year of cancelled events and anti-social isolation. But let's all remember that truest of all cliches, that the light shines brightest in the darkness. This Christmas, let it be the one that you will never forget in a year you probably won't want to remember. Jesus comes into his own on dark days like these, and he lights the place up. This living, breathing, death-defying Jesus that I'm talking about, he makes himself personally available to everyone today who calls on his name. And he didn't come for church people. He didn't come for good people. He didn't come for holy people. He didn't come for nice people. He came for sinners like you and me. He came for the lost and the losers. He came for the broken and the breakers. He came for the hurt and the hurters. He came to make all of us new. He's the second chance God in the last chance saloon. As we read again in John's Gospel, from him all the kindness and all the truth of God have come down to us. Grown way too big for a manger now, Jesus has completely outgrown Christmas and is now ever expanding until one day he fills everything in every way. The biggest person in history and by far the biggest person in the universe. I wonder, do you know this massive Christ, this magnificent, monumental megastar of all time? He'll count you in if you count on him. He'll count you in if you count on him. Now that's something to celebrate with a life-giving party to end the year. You could simply raise a glass to Jesus and toast the anniversary of his arrival. But what he really wants for Christmas is for you to raise your voice and call him Lord and Saviour. He wants you to follow him. He wants you to obey him. In his own words, Jesus put it like this: turn back to God and believe the good news. Then and only then can you go out in the power of his name and prick a pin, so to speak, through the veil for someone else. Cause them to wonder at the tiny, unexpected ray of light, the ray of hope piercing through the darkness for them. For as Jesus also said, it's better to give than to receive. Nothing much might seem to happen for some time. Just a whole load of little holes. But if you dare to imagine dozens, hundreds, or even thousands of these holes being made all over Dawlish, and if you dare to step out into the heart of community like Jesus did, you could see some of these holes opened up with signs and wonders. You could see Jesus delivered into the lives of people around you. You could see Jesus born again in Dawlish. Then it really could be Christmas every day. Imagine that.